Okay, I'll get started today by welcoming everyone. Sawadee Kap, welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone. Welcome to everyone online as well. Today is what we call our Pali Canon and English study group, which I'll explain to you guys what that is after we do our meditation, because we ease into the class through meditation. We're going to be doing breathing mindfulness meditation together. So I'll guide you guys in this session, and then afterwards I'll explain to you what the Pali Canon and English study group is. Essentially, what we do here is we help you to learn the teachings from the Buddha that are guide you to this enlightened mental state where the mind can be peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. The mind will be bright and uplifted and cheerful. You won't experience any anger or sadness or frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. So that's why we actually start with meditation, because the teachings of the Buddha aren't about a bunch of beliefs. You're actually actively training your mind during dedicated, active, purposeful training sessions. You need meditation in order to get to enlightenment, but there's a whole host of other things that you need as well. So that's why we actually study the original teachings of the Buddha using his original words. So if you'd like to join for meditation, the way that I start is I start by easing in with some chanting. If you'd like to join along in the chanting, you're more than welcome to. We have chanting sheets over there on the table. You'll see laminated sheets. You're welcome to get one at any time if you'd like. It has the Pali words, which is what we're chanting in, and it also has the English translations as well. So you'll see the English translations of what we're actually chanting. When you're doing Buddhist chanting, it's important to understand that it's not a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship or anything like this. It's not prayer or anything like that. The Buddha used chanting during his lifetime in order to commit the teachings to memory, that every 2 weeks his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally, because the technology to write things down didn't exist in that region of the world yet. So he taught orally, and his students would recite his teachings through chanting, and this is the way they would commit them to memory and then actually be able to practice his teachings on a day-to-day basis. So this is how chanting got started. So there's no mystical or magical aspect of chanting, which some people believe today, but that's not actually the truth. So the reason why I still chant, because you don't need it in order to get to enlightenment nowadays. You can use books and audiobooks and video and podcasts and things like this in order to learn the teachings. I use chanting because it helps you to get more benefit out of the meditation itself, where it helps you to ease into the meditation, having awareness of mind and awareness of the breath, so that you're actually more productive in your meditation session itself. So if you like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. And as I mentioned, they're on the table over there. If you end up getting one of those chanting sheets, you're going to see a lot of appreciation and gratitude and respect for the Buddha in these chants. And because of that, I don't think that the Buddha actually even created these chants. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death, because a Buddha doesn't go around and teach people to chant these things to him. And he wouldn't have taught people to, here, chant these out of respect and admiration for me. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from the anger and the sadness and the frustration and all those other discontent feelings to the peace and joy that is the enlightened mental state, and that teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of respect and gratitude for that person too. So that's where I suspect that these chants actually came from. So I'm going to start with the chants, easing into the meditation, and you guys are welcome to join along if you like. Then you're going to hear me come in with some guidance to be guiding you during the meditation while we're actually meditating together. Then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating together. Of course, you're going to hear occasional sounds, right? There's cars going by, there's birds chirping, you might hear some dogs barking from time to time. This is all impermanent sounds. As long as you don't crave permanent silence, when you hear sounds, you'll just know that they're impermanent and your mind doesn't need to be affected by it. Whereas if you have a craving, a longing, a yearning, a desire, a wanting, an expectation for quietness, when you hear a sound during your meditation, you'll be disturbed, you'll be agitated and frustrated. So you can eliminate that by letting that go and realize that there's going to be sounds during your meditation, whether you're here or you're anywhere else. It's not possible to be in an environment that's permanently quiet. So you're going to experience some sounds occasionally. And as that's occurring, you'll hear the guidance that you just bring your mind back to your breath. Every single time your mind moves off the breath, you just keep bringing your mind back to the breath. So that'll be happening during the time where we're just quiet. We're just all meditating together. Those of us here at the temple and anyone joining us online, we can just all be meditating together at the same time. Then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting, and then that's where I'll start the actual class and teach you guys what we have in terms of our Pali Canon and English study group. In terms of your body positioning for meditation, there's 4 positions to meditate in. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking. And depending on how far you go in your journey to enlightenment, you would learn these different positions at different times because they're beneficial and useful in certain situations. Oftentimes people are learning in the seated position, so I'll give you guys a little bit of guidance in that just to help you get started. So in the seated position, you're either maybe on the floor, in a chair. If you're at home, you might be on a sofa or a bench or a wheelchair or something like this. If you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This kind of helps to soften your seat a bit. And then you'd like to just lightly cross your legs. This is going to help the circulation to flow in the lower body. Whereas if they were real tight, this could impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. And you're not interested in that. Some people like to put their legs off the mat because it's not about everybody doing it exactly the same way. It's about finding what's comfortable for you. So some people like to put their legs off the mat, and this gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. Your hands and your arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. And if this is comfortable for you, you could use it. But remember, it's not about everyone doing it the same way. There's other options here. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or on their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest them comfortably in their lap. So it's whatever is comfortable for you. And the same thing for anyone in a chair or in a wheelchair or something like this. You can find whatever's comfortable for you. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor, lightly cross at the ankles or something like this, and then putting their hands and arms wherever they like. But you can see I'm sitting in a chair with my legs crossed, so there's any number of different ways that you can sit and be comfortable. It's helpful if the upper body is erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. This keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So having the mind attentive and alert during the meditation will surely help you to do that. So by having the sternum up and the shoulders back, the mind will be more attentive and alert, and it'll be easier for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to start with chanting, which you guys are welcome to join in on, and then I'll come back in with some guidance for the meditation. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Wat Tung Bhagavanhang Apivateyami Savakhato Bhagavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno สกาโตโรกาวิตูอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวาปานุสนังโพโตภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath. Either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาโพตังมหาเขวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรภูริสานามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโพโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone here at the temple. Nice to see all of you guys this morning. Welcome to Wat Tung. Welcome to everyone joining us online as well. I'll just share a few things with you guys before we get started with our class to help you feel even more comfortable here in our temporary classroom. We're working downstairs in order to create a new classroom for you guys, which is where we usually are downstairs. But since we're refurbishing that, we've moved up here temporarily. But up here, we have two bathrooms. There's this first door here, and then the very last door, right as you come up the steps, there's a bathroom there as well. Feel free to use it at any time that you'd like. Help yourself. There's even bathrooms outside the classroom. If you go outside into the parking lot, you'll see signs that take you around to the main temple bathroom. So you're welcome to use those as well. We even have snacks and refreshments over here that show up from time to time. This is provided by our students. So if you like any snacks or refreshments, feel free to help yourself to anything over there on the tables. So again, welcome to all of you guys, whether you're joining us for the first time or you've been joining regularly. Today is our Pali Canon English study group where we study the original words of the Buddha. We have other programs here and online where we help you develop a foundation in the path to enlightenment. We help you to understand all the foundational teachings to train your mind and make your way to this enlightened mental state. The enlightened mental state is where the mind is peaceful, it's calm, serene, and content with joy. You no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are completely eliminated from the enlightened mind. You'll notice that your mind has focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. Your personal and professional relationships will be blossoming because you won't have any bitterness and hostility and harshness in your mind anymore. You'll have loving kindness and compassion for all beings. You'll get to the point where you're not even in a bad mood anymore because you've uprooted eliminated the causes and conditions that are producing the bad mood. All of this is happening through training of the mind. The Buddha discovered 10 individual pollutions in the mind, and he discovered the tools and techniques of how to eliminate these out of the mind. And when you eliminate these pollutions out of the mind, that's where the brightness and the radiance and the joy of the enlightened mind comes shining through. It's not instantaneous, and it's not happening just through meditation alone. It's through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress of, yes, meditation, but there's other aspects of your practice that you need as well. And that's why we study the original words of the Buddha, so that you can understand what those teachings are. And when you're learning his teachings, you're not interested in believing anything about his teachings. You don't just believe your way to enlightenment. It's not about believe, and then hope something good happens when you die. The Buddha also didn't teach rites and rituals and ceremonies and worship. If you see any of these kinds of things associated with the teachings of the Buddha actually didn't teach those. Those are misunderstandings that people have nowadays. Instead, he taught you to train your mind by acquiring wisdom. The way you acquire wisdom is you learn the teachings, you investigate them and examine them. You then reflect on those teachings to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. And then you practice the teachings by integrating these tools and techniques into your day-to-day life and actually training your mind. And this is where you start eliminating more and more of the pollutions, and you see more and more of the qualities of enlightenment starting to shine through. So we have all these foundational programs that will help you to build up a foundation in the path to enlightenment. And with those foundational programs, we use this first volume of our book series. It's called Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. And we help you to be able to learn this. And there's a program that's on Sundays and Wednesdays that gradually walks you through this. And then we have various courses and retreats that help you to learn it as well. And this is where most people usually start. And you can get this book from our website for free. You can just download it, or you can take it and go print it, or you can get printed versions here at the temple by just reimbursing us for our printing cost, or you can order it on Amazon if your country has access to Amazon. So this is the best place to get started in understanding this journey to enlightenment. And then we have this particular program. There's many different courses and retreats, but ultimately, as students are learning more and more, they might end up making their way into a program like this, where we use volumes 2 through 13. And we go chapter by chapter, helping you guys to understand the original words of the Buddha and helping you to be able to learn what it takes to be able to get to the enlightened mental state. Today, we're actually starting a new book in this program. We're starting volume 5, which this book is titled The First Stage of Enlightenment, Stream Enter. What this book has is a collection of teachings that you need in order to get to the first stage of enlightenment. But if you haven't learned volumes 1 through 4, you haven't really necessarily studied what you need to be able to 100% understand what we're going to be talking about in this particular book. But even if this is your first time here and you've never learned before, there's definitely things you're going to be able to learn. Just understand that there might be a few things that you don't quite understand. And where you encounter those, feel free to ask questions. You guys are going to be able to ask questions as we go through our class today, because this is more like a study group, where the other programs that I usually teach for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then I open up to questions. I teach another 15, 20, 30 minutes and open up to questions. It's kind of like a more traditional way of learning, where in this program, we do it more as a study group. What I do is I invite students here at the temple and anybody who's joining through Zoom to be able to read one of these chapters. These chapters are very short. You can see this one goes basically 1 page, and that's it. These are the original words of the Buddha. And if you would like to volunteer, all you need to do here at the temple is get a microphone that's in the white bowl in front of the camera, and you press the gray button, the lights will come on, and you hold this up to your chin, and you can read this. And then after somebody reads it, I will then share some teachings on that for a period of time, and then I'll open up to any questions that you guys have. So whether you're here at the temple or you're in Zoom, you can offer to read this particular chapter. If you're in Zoom, all you need to do is electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and then you'll be able to read. We'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you through the live stream. And then the same thing goes for questions. If you guys would like to ask any questions during the time that we have questions, if you could use a microphone here, that would be wonderful, because they won't be able to hear you online if you speak here without a microphone. And when you get these microphones, you can take them back to your seat, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphone with them. And then for those of you guys online, you can ask questions through Facebook Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom by just putting your question into the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you have the added feature of electronically raising your hand and asking any and all questions that you like. So is there someone who would like to volunteer to read this first chapter for us? You got it, Pat? Okay, great.
The Mirror of the Stream Enterer. Ananda, I will teach you a teachings exposition called the Mirror of the Teachings, equipped with which a noble disciple, if he aspires, could by himself declare of himself, I am finished with hell, finished with the animal realm, finished with the realm of afflicted spirits, finished with the plane of misery, the bad destinations, the netherworld. I am a stream enterer, no longer bound to the netherworld, fixed in destiny, with enlightenment as my destination. And what, Ananda, is that teachings exposition? The mirror of the teachings, equipped with which a noble disciple, if he aspires, could by himself declare thus of himself. Here, Ananda, a noble disciple possesses confirmed confidence in the Buddha thus: the perfectly enlightened one is an arahant, perfectly enlightened, accomplished in true wisdom and conduct, fortunate, however of the worlds, unsurpassed leader of persons to be tamed, teacher of heavenly beings and humans, the enlightened one, the fortunate one. He possesses confirmed confidence in the teachings thus: the teachings are well expounded by the perfectly enlightened one, directly visible, immediate, inviting one to come and see, applicable to be personally experienced by the wise. He possesses the confirmed confidence in the community thus: the community of the perfectly enlightened one's disciples is practicing the wholesome way, practicing the straight way, practicing the true way, practicing the proper way. That is, the 4 pairs of persons, the 8 types of individuals. This community of the perfectly enlightened one's disciples is worthy of gifts, worthy of hospitality, worthy of offerings, worthy of respectful salutation, the unsurpassed field of merit for the world. He possesses the virtues dear to the noble ones: unbroken, untorn, unblemished, unblotched, liberating, praised by the wise, not misunderstood, and leading to concentration. This, Ananda, is those teachings exposition, the mirror of the teachings equipped with which a noble disciple, if he aspires, could by himself declare of himself.
Okay, thank you, Pat. So first, a stream enterer is someone who's in the first stage of enlightenment. There's 4 individual stages of enlightenment. And as you're developing your practice, there's certain core central teachings that you would need to focus on in order to get your arms around the foundational teachings of the Buddha. And this is going to help you to start moving towards the first stage of enlightenment. The mind's not actually enlightened until you get to the 4th stage of enlightenment. In the first stage of enlightenment, we refer to it as a stream enterer. And the reason why is because just like a log enters the stream and is going to eventually get to the ocean, that once you enter into the first stage of enlightenment, you're going to get to enlightenment. It's only a matter of time. Just like that log is eventually going to get to the ocean, you're going to eventually get to enlightenment. It's only a matter of time. So getting to that first stage of enlightenment is a very pivotal point in your development on the path to enlightenment. Because once you're in that first stage of enlightenment, your mind won't regress backwards. As you're making your way closer and closer to the first stage of enlightenment, you're going to see heightened qualities of concentration, calmness, composure in the mind. You're going to notice awareness of the mind as you're starting to develop more and more the mind. So as you get to that first stage of enlightenment, your mind won't regress backwards from there. But all the way up to that first stage of enlightenment, your mind can actually regress if you became complacent. Because as you're developing your practice, you might have what's called doubt. You might have doubt about the teachings. This is very common when someone first comes to the path to enlightenment. They might have doubt of whether the Buddha actually lived or not, whether his teachings will truly lead to enlightenment, whether this community of practitioners will really help you along your journey to enlightenment. And you might even have doubt in your teacher or your own ability to get to enlightenment. This is very common to have doubt when you first enter into the path to enlightenment. But as you make your way to the first stage of enlightenment, by the time you get there, you will have eliminated all your doubt, because you will have seen significant progress to the condition of the mind, to the point where your doubt will be eliminated. So if you have doubt, that's normal. And what you would like to do is kind of harness that doubt and turn it into an inquisitive mind where you're interested in investigating and examining the teachings. And through deep investigation and examination of the teachings, as you're implementing those in your life more and more, you'll see that they're true and they actually work to improve the condition of your mind and the condition of your life. Because you know, in situations where you once got angry or frustrated or agitated or annoyed or some other discontent feeling, and when you're experiencing that same situation and your mind's not experiencing those conditioned feelings, then you know that these teachings are working to help you. So what the Buddha is talking about here is that as you make your way to the first stage of enlightenment, and someone's actually in the first stage of enlightenment, among other things, they will have confirmed confidence in the Buddha. They will have confirmed confidence in the teachings, in the community, and they will have a certain amount of moral conduct that has been improved by the time you get to this first stage of enlightenment. There's other things that an individual would have and have developed in their mind besides these. So when you're looking at the teachings of the Buddha, it's important that you look at them in their totality. That when you just look at one discourse like this, you might think like, oh, that's all I need in order to get to the first stage of enlightenment is just confidence in the Buddha, the teachings, the community, and improved moral conduct. But in reality, there's other things as well. So there's multiple discourses that the Buddha shares about all the different things that you would need in order to be able to get to enlightenment. This is just one of those discourses. So we refer to these three things of confirmed confidence in the Buddha, the teachings, and the community as the triple gem or the triple jewel, because you would need these three things, among others, in order to be able to get to enlightenment. If you just had confidence in the Buddha, but you didn't have access to his teachings and you weren't part of a community, you wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment. If you just had access to the teachings, but you didn't have confidence in the Buddha and you weren't part of a community, you wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment. Or if you were just part of a community and you didn't have confidence in the Buddha or his teachings, you wouldn't be able to actually get to enlightenment. So you need all three of these things, the triple gem or the triple jewel, and you develop this over time. And this is what's going to help you to be able to get to the first stage of enlightenment. Having gotten to the first stage of enlightenment, one of the things that an individual is benefiting from is that should they die, they're not going to be reborn into the lower realms of existence. The Buddha taught the cycle of rebirth, that individuals are coming into the world over and over and over again until you get to enlightenment. And this is something that you can independently verify. Like I've shared, all the teachings of the Buddha, they're not based in belief. You're not believing his teachings and then hoping something good happens when you die. You're actually learning and training your mind now, getting to peace and joy now in this present world. These 5 realms that he taught, the hell realm, the animal realm, afflicted spirits, the human realm, and the heavenly realm, these can also be independently verified. They're not permanent existences. Just like you're not permanently human, this being is going to die. The same thing is true about these other realms. You might have been taught that hell is a permanent existence or heaven is a permanent existence. But you can look around the world around you and you can see nothing around you is permanent. It's called the universal truth of impermanence, that things are constantly changing. It's a universal truth. It's part of the natural laws of existence, that you can see things are constantly changing. So existence in these realms is not permanent. So you may have been reborn into these different realms at different times. But now being in the human realm, this is the ideal existence to be able to learn and grow and train your mind and be able to get to enlightenment. And as you're progressing along that path, if you get to the first stage of enlightenment, from that point forward, you will never be reborn down into the lower realms ever again, because you've become a better and better human being by that point. Essentially, what the path to enlightenment is it's a path to inner growth and inner development. You're evolving and becoming a better and better human being. Just like a snake or a lizard or another animal evolves over time, and becomes a better and better animal, as human beings, we can do that as well. These feelings that you experience, like anger and sadness and frustration in others, you don't have to experience those for the rest of your life. There's an escape for you. There's a way to get away from that. But in the Western world and places that all of us grew up in, these teachings aren't very strong. They're not very vibrant. They're not really well known. So as you learn and grow and develop on the path, you can see for yourself that the condition of the mind is improving, and you'll see that through continuous growth and evolution of you becoming a better and better human being. And that's what the Buddha's teachings are guiding you to be able to do, is accomplish this inner growth. So these are the 4 things that an individual would need, among others, in order to be able to make their way to this first stage of enlightenment, is confirmed confidence in the Buddha, the teachings, the community, and this improved moral conduct. And he teaches you in other teachings about this moral conduct. One of the things that he says here, let me see if I can find it. I think it's up here somewhere where he talks about it. Let me see if I can find it. I can't see it right off the bat, but he talks about how his teachings, here it is. He talks about his teachings, and he says that they are directly visible, immediately inviting one to come and see. What he's talking about here is coming to investigate his teachings. Come and examine his teachings. You'll never see anywhere in the teachings of the Buddha where he says, just believe me, just believe me. He's teaching you to cultivate wisdom. He's inviting you to come examine his teachings, because if you examine them close enough and you're learning, you're reflecting to independently verify them, and you're practicing his teachings, you will see that they actually work to improve the condition of your mind. So that's what he's saying here. He's saying they're directly visible, meaning you can see the truth for yourself. If you learn them and reflect on them, you can immediately see the truth, and they're immediately beneficial. And he's inviting you to come and examine his teachings. They're applicable, meaning you can apply them in your day-to-day life to be personally experienced by the wise. Because as you learn and grow and develop in his teachings, you're becoming wiser and wiser about the world around you. When your mind's angry and sad and frustrated, and you're feeling guilt and sorrow and frustration and all these other feelings, this is your mind struggling and having difficulties in the world. You're living in a world that you don't understand. And because of that, the mind will struggle. But as you develop wisdom about the world around you and the natural laws, your mind is awakening to this wisdom, and now you can navigate the world more peacefully. And you'll notice that you won't have that anger and the sadness and the frustration any longer. Your mind will gradually move away from that. No matter what's going on, no matter what kind of things that you're experiencing, you can maintain your peace and your joy. Because what the mind does is it craves permanence. It wants things to be a certain way permanently. And when you get what you want, you get happy, you get excited. But when you're not getting what you want, you get angry or sad or frustrated. The mind in the unenlightened state is causing its own discontent feelings. Right now, you might firmly believe that other people are causing you to be angry, or other people are frustrating you. You've probably been in arguments where you've been trying to adamantly convince somebody that what they are doing is causing you to be angry. But if you look at this objectively, you can actually see that your own mind is causing these feelings, that there's craving, there's longing, there's yearning. The mind is wanting or expecting something. And when you get what you want, you get happy or excited. But when you don't get what you want, then you get angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling, right? So like right now, it's a perfect example. If we wanted a certain amount of quietness here in this classroom and we heard some noise like downstairs, you'd be frustrated, you'd be agitated or annoyed. But if you just understand, it's impermanence. We have a certain sound now, but that's going to change. We hear a little sound, okay, and then that changes. It's gone. It's impermanent. But what the mind does in the unenlightened state is it craves permanence, but yet it's living in an impermanent world. Everything around you is constantly changing, but you're going to crave permanence. This is why you might have had grief or sorrow when grandma or grandpa died, or mom or dad, or brothers and sisters. You were craving permanence, wanting this person to exist permanently. Sometimes people think that it's love that's causing the mind to grieve and be sorrowful during the time of a funeral or something like that. But what's really occurring is the mind is craving for this individual to be permanent. And when they're alive, you're getting what you want and you're happy. But then when they die and you're confronted with this impermanence, the mind doesn't understand that impermanence. So therefore it struggles and has difficulties during that time. But if you understand that grandma was born, so therefore she had to die, just like us. Because we were born, we have to die. We are impermanent. We are not going to be in this world permanently. But if we hold on and we crave permanence, then we'll struggle, we'll have difficulties as we're getting close to death or the death of other people. Or if you crave to be permanently healthy, when you're sick, you'll feel miserable. You'll feel terrible, like, oh, I'm so sick. Oh, I want to go outside and play. I don't want to go see my friends. Why do I have to stay home, right? Because the mind's craving permanence. It wants permanent health. Or if you want permanent youthfulness, as you age and you see a wrinkle or you see a gray hair or you get a little bit of extra fat here or there, you'll struggle and you'll have difficulties. You need to understand that this body is impermanent. But as long as your mind is craving permanence, you'll struggle in these situations. So you can look at your own life and you can see this truth for yourself. You can look at a situation where you've recently been angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling, and look at that situation. There was something your mind wanted. There was something you were longing, yearning for. There was something you expected. And if you would have got that, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get it, your mind got angry or frustrated or sad or some other discontent feeling. You might have got annoyed, right? So you can look at these situations and see for yourself that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. Because if you continue to blame other people for the feelings that you experience, you'll never solve your problem, because it's not other people that are causing these feelings. And when you misunderstand what the problem is and the cause of that problem, then what you'll tend to do is you'll tend to push people away out of your life, thinking that this is going to solve the problem. You might have done that before, where you experienced anger and frustration and you push this person out of your life, thinking that that's going to solve the problem. Or you might have pushed the situation out of your life. But you can see that that didn't solve the problem, because you still get angry, you still get annoyed, you still get frustrated. If that was the real cause of the problem, when you push them out of your life, you wouldn't get angry or frustrated any longer. Or you might have been bitter and harsh and hostile towards people, thinking that they are the ones who are causing your anger. And now through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, you might have been bitter and harsh and hostile towards them. And now maybe your relationship ended because of that. Maybe people chose to leave out of your life. Or you might have tried to put your expectations on people and maybe tried to control people and try to force them to do things your way. This is what the unenlightened mind does. You don't need to feel guilty or shameful about this. This is just what the mind does with its lack of wisdom. It'll push people away. It'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or it'll put its expectations on people. And as long as you keep doing that, you can't live harmoniously with all beings. You're going to stay stuck in this continuous cycle of getting what you want in some cases, and you will get happy. And in other cases, you won't get what you want, and you'll get angry or sad or frustrated. And now you'll push people away. You'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or you'll put your expectations on people. And now you stay stuck in this continuous cycle, thinking that everyone else is causing you to be angry, when in reality, it's your own mind that's causing this. And that's why if you train your mind and uplift the pollutions out of your mind, you can get to the peace and the joy. So the teachings of the Buddha aren't about a bunch of rules and commandments. And if everybody follows these rules, then the world will become a peaceful place. He's explaining to you the way the world is, so that now with that wisdom, you can navigate the world more peacefully. He's not explaining to you the way the world should be. He's explaining to you the way the world is. And now when you understand the way the world is, then awakening to that wisdom, you'll be able to get to the peace and the joy, because you understand that the world is impermanent and your mind is craving permanence. So his teachings are inviting you to come investigate them so that you can see the truth for yourself. And these are 4 things, among others, that an individual would need to be able to get to the first stage of enlightenment. And in that first stage of enlightenment, you have a significant decrease of your discontentedness. There's still some discontentedness there, but it's significantly decreased when you're in the first stage of enlightenment. And you're going to notice significant benefits in that first stage. So do you guys have any questions on this? Remember, you can use the microphones here at the temple or online. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. Or in Zoom, you can raise your hand electronically and ask any questions that you like. Is there anything you guys would like to ask? No questions? Okay. Let me see if we have anything online here. Okay, I don't see any questions anywhere. All right, so we'll go to the second chapter. Let's see, the second chapter. By the way, what you have here in these books is you have the words of the Buddha. These are the original words that he spoke during his lifetime. You've got a reference that takes you back to the original Pali Canon. The original teachings of the Buddha are in what's called the Pali Canon. This is 45 volumes of books that are this large, and this will take you back to that original teachings in the original Pali Canon. Then you've got words from me to be able to help you further understand this particular teaching and how to integrate it into your day-to-day life. So this is what you have in these actual books. So here, this is me describing the 4 stages of enlightenment and the 10 fetters and so forth. Okay, so let's get to the next chapter, which is chapter 2. And this one's very similar to the last one. Let me just see. This is actually very similar, so we don't need to read this. This was just explaining the 4 things that we just talked about, but it's explaining it in a slightly different way. So let's move on to chapter 3 and see what we've got there. And I think this one's very similar as well. This one, the Buddha is just mentioning those same 4 things, but he's just saying how this slants, slopes, and inclines towards enlightenment. But it's the same exact things that we just read. So let's talk about this one, chapter 4. Would somebody like to read this short little section here? Yes, ma'am.
A stream possesses the Noble Eightfold Path. Sariputta, this is said, a stream inter. What now, Sariputta, is a stream inter? One who possesses this Noble Eightfold Path, Venerable Sir, is called a stream inter. This Venerable Path one is of such a name and clan. Good, Sariputta, one who possesses this Eightfold Path is a stream inter. This Venerable one of such a name and clan.
Yes, thank you so much. So as I was mentioning, in order to get to the first stage of enlightenment, there's other things that you need besides those first 4 that we saw in the previous discourse. So here, what the Buddha is explaining is that this Eightfold Path, this is a core central teaching that you learn in all the foundational programs that I teach. And this is something that you usually start out with. You start out with the Eightfold Path. You would need that as a foundational teaching in order to get to the first stage of enlightenment. It's not just those 4 things that we talked about previously. So the Eightfold Path is a foundation, and it's 8 individual factors that you're learning and growing and developing, and you're integrating into your life more and more. This is your life practice. And the way that you might think about the Eightfold Path is it's kind of like a speaker system. A speaker system, if you have 8 dials, you might tweak these dials to try to get a better and better quality sound out of the speakers. Well, the Eightfold Path is very similar, that if you're looking to get a better quality performing mind, you're going to need to tweak these 8 factors and bring them into your life more and more. And as you adjust these into your life, you'll notice the qualities of your mind significantly improving. So this is the foundational teaching that you would need to really make any kind of progress on your journey to enlightenment is the Eightfold Path. And that's why in all the programs and courses and retreats that I teach, I be sure that I actually teach that. So I teach it using the original words of the Buddha. And if you haven't learned that with me before, it's okay, because it's been recorded multiple times. You can see it on our YouTube channel, in our books, in our audiobook, on our podcast. It's been recorded many times, and there's various courses and retreats that I teach throughout the month and throughout the year where you can actually learn this, either here at the temple or through our live stream. So this is like the very first place that you would start, is really getting started with the Eightfold Path. Do you guys have any questions on this one? No? Okay. So let's move to the next one. This is chapter 5. Is there someone who would like to read this one? Yes, Doche. You got a mic? You need a mic? Can you see from there? Yeah? Okay.
Eliminating the 5 dangers and hostiles as a stream enter. Householder, when a noble disciple has eliminated 5 dangers and hostiles, possesses the 4 factors of stream entry, and has clearly seen and thoroughly penetrated the wisdom, the noble method, he might, if he so aspires, declare of himself, I am one finished with hell, the animal realm, and the realm of afflicted spirits, finished with the plane of misery, the bad destination, the lower world. I am a stream enterer, no longer subject to rebirth in the lower world, fixed in destiny, headed for enlightenment. What are the 5 dangers and hostiles that that have been eliminated? Householder, one who destroys life with the destruction of life as a condition, creates danger and hostility pertaining to the present life and danger and hostility pertaining to the future lives. And he also experiences mental pain and sadness. One who abstains from the destruction of life does not create such danger and hostility pertaining to the present life, or such danger and hostility pertaining to the future lives. Nor does he experience pain and sadness. For one who abstains from the destruction of life, that danger and hostility has thus been eliminated. One who takes what is not given, with taking what is not given as a condition, creates danger and hostility pertaining to the present life, and danger and hostility pertaining to the future lives. And he also experiences mental pain and sadness. One who abstains from taking what is not given does not create such danger and hostility pertaining to the present life, or such danger and hostility pertaining to future lives, nor does he experience mental pain and sadness. For one who abstains from taking what is not given, that danger and hostility has thus been eliminated. One who engages in sexual misconduct, with sexual misconduct as a condition, creates danger and hostility pertaining to the present life, and danger and hostility pertaining to future lives, and he also experiences mental pain and sadness. One who abstains from sexual misconduct does not create such danger and hostility pertaining to the present life, or such danger and hostility pertaining to future lives, nor does he experience mental pain and sadness. For one who abstains from sexual misconduct, that danger and hostility has thus been eliminated. One who speaks falsely, with false speech as a condition, creates danger and hostility pertaining to the present life, and danger and hostility pertaining to future lives, and he also experiences mental pain and sadness. One who abstains from false speech does not create such danger and hostility pertaining to the present life, or such danger and hostility pertaining to future lives, nor does he experience mental pain and sadness. For one who abstains from false speech, that danger and hostility has thus been eliminated. And 5, one who indulges in liquor, wine, and substances that cause unawareness of mind, the basis for heedlessness, with indulgence as a condition, creates danger and hostility pertaining to the present life, and danger and hostility pertaining to future lives. And he also experiences mental pain and sadness. One who abstains from liquor, wine, and substances that cause unawareness of mind, the basis for heedlessness, does not create such danger and hostility pertaining to the present life, or such danger and hostility pertaining to future lives, nor does he experience mental pain and sadness. For one who abstains from liquor, wine, and substances that cause unawareness of mind, the basis for heedlessness, that danger and hostility has thus been eliminated. There are 5 dangers and hostilities and hostiles that have been eliminated. And what are the 4 factors of stream entry that he possesses? Here a householder, a noble disciple, possesses unwavering confidence in the Buddha thus. The perfectly enlightened one is an arahant, perfectly enlightened, accomplished in true wisdom and conduct, fortunate knower of worlds, unsurpassed trainer of persons to be tamed, the teacher of heavenly beings and humans, the enlightened one, the fortunate one. He possesses unwavering confidence in the teachings thus. The teachings are well expounded by the perfectly enlightened one, directly visible, immediate, inviting one to come and see, applicable to be personally experienced by the wise. He possesses unwavering confidence in the community thus. The community of the perfectly enlightened one's disciples is practicing the wholesome way, practicing the straight way, practicing the true way, practicing the proper way. That is the 4 pairs of persons, the 8 types of individuals. This community of the perfectly enlightened one's disciples is worthy of gifts, worthy of hospitality, and worthy of offerings. Worthy of respectful salutation, unsurpassed field of merit in the world. He possesses the virtuous behavior, practicing moral conduct, admired by the noble ones, unbroken, untorn, unblemished, unblotched, liberating, praised by the wise, not misunderstood, and leading to concentration. There are 4 factors of stream entry that he possesses. These are the 4 factors of stream entry that he possesses. And what is the noble method that he has declared, seen, thoroughly penetrated with wisdom? Here, householder, the noble disciple reflects thus. When this exists, that comes to be. When, with the arising of this, that arises. When this does not exist, that does not come to be. With the elimination of this, that is eliminated. That is, with ignorance as a condition, volitional formations, choices, decisions come to be. With volitional formations as a condition, consciousness come. With consciousness as a condition, name and form. With name and form as a condition, the 6 sense bases. With the 6 sense bases as a condition, contact. With contact as a condition, feeling. With feeling as a condition, craving. With craving as a condition, clinging. With clinging as a condition, existence. With existence as a condition, birth. With birth as a condition, old age and death, sorrow, grief, pain, sadness, and misery come to be. Such is the cause of this whole mass of discontentedness. But with the remainderless fading away and elimination of ignorance comes the elimination of volitional formations.
If you would like to skip over all that, Doche,
Sure.
you can. It's just talking about the elimination of those things now.
Sure.
Yeah.
And this noble method that has clearly seen and thoroughly penetrated with wisdom. Householder, when a noble disciple has eliminated these 5 dangers and hostiles, he possesses the 4 factors of stream entry and has clearly seen and thoroughly penetrated with wisdom the noble method. He might, if he so aspires, declare of himself, I am one finished with hell, the animal realm, and the realm of afflicted spirits. Finished with the plane of misery, the bad destination, the lower worlds. I am a stream enterer, no longer subject to rebirth in the lower world, fixed in destiny, headed for enlightenment.
Okay, thank you, sir. So here we've got some more details about a stream enterer and what a stream enterer would be practicing. The first part that he's talking about here, he's talking about the 5 precepts. These are 5 things that you're learning as part of the foundational teachings. The Buddha teaches you this cause and effect, or this action and result. He's not giving you rules here of what you should or shouldn't be doing, because anything that you do in your life, it's your decisions. It's your life, it's your decisions, and it's your results. What the Buddha is a real master of is showing this cause and effect, or this action and result. And he shows you throughout his teachings this natural law of karma, of how you make certain decisions, either wisely or unwisely, and it produces either wholesome results or unwholesome results for you. And here he's talking about how you can produce wholesome results or unwholesome results. This first part, he's talking about an individual who's killing. If we're killing, we can see that it causes harm in the world. It's causing harm to other beings, and then harm comes to us. And part of what the harm is this feelings of mental pain and sadness that the Buddha is talking about here. This is part of that danger and hostility that you're eliminating. If you went around killing, this is going to cause difficulties for you, because not only are you causing harm to others, but this harm is going to come back to you. Then he talks about one who steals, one who has sexual misconduct. And then he goes into details about sexual misconduct in the 5 precepts, if you study the 5 precepts. Then there's one who speaks falsely. This is someone who lies. And then there's substances that cause heedlessness. These are called the 5 precepts. These are 5 things that are very impactful decisions that you could make either wisely or unwisely. And you need to explore those through the discourses in the teachings, where you can see the original words of the Buddha on these 5 precepts, and then you can actually practice them, because you're going to need to learn how to apply them in your day-to-day life. Sometimes people have very rudimentary translations of these, where they say the Buddha taught no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, and no intoxicants. He didn't actually teach this way. This sounds like black and white. When you see his original words on the 5 precepts, they're much more illuminating than this. They explain to you in detail of what it is that he's teaching you, so that you can see this cause and effect in this action and result. And here he's just referencing those teachings. But if you go look at the 5 precepts, which is in volume 1, chapter 7, you'll be able to see them in more detail. And then I provide some content there to be able to help you see how to apply it in your day-to-day life, because it's not black and white. Sometimes people think of it as black and white, but it's not black and white. You need to be able to understand what it is that he's teaching you and how to apply it in day-to-day life. So he's saying a stream enterer will have eliminated these kinds of practices. So I've actually talked to somebody before, and they told me if you were a stream enterer, that this person could still be drunk and intoxicated. And you can see here in the teachings of the Buddha, it's just not true, right? There's all these misunderstandings in the world. This person was maybe themselves holding on to alcohol and thinking that somehow they're going to still get to the first stage of enlightenment through ingesting substances that cause heedlessness. But you're not going to be able to experience the brightness and the clarity and the cheerfulness if you're ingesting substances that cause heedlessness. It's going to take you down into this sadness, what the Buddha is describing here. Then, of course, those 4 things that we studied before, which is confidence in the Buddha, the teachings, the community, and a certain amount of improved conduct. He's describing that. But then he talks about this noble method. He says that a stream enterer will understand this noble method. What he's talking about here is what's called dependent origination, that a stream enterer is going to understand dependent origination. We're going to be studying that in this particular book when we get to chapter 14. This is the highest teaching of the Buddha, where he breaks it down into 12 individual steps, and he shows you these 12 individual factors that are leading to your continuous rebirth in the world and your discontentedness. And remember, this is independently verifiable. You can take dependent origination, study it in depth, and then you'll be able to see how you're continuing to come back into the world over and over and over again through independent verification of this teaching. And you'll be able to see the detail of exactly why you're experiencing anger and sadness and frustration and other things like this. So we're going to study this when we actually get to chapter 14, but right here he's actually referencing dependent origination. For someone who's familiar with dependent origination, you can see that that's what he's actually referencing. But then you would need to go study that in a separate teaching. And he's saying a person who's in the first stage of enlightenment would understand dependent origination, and they would understand how to eliminate it. They would understand how to dismantle it, because that's what you're working on the path to enlightenment, is dismantling dependent origination. One thing that I'll share here is at the very top of dependent origination is you have the elimination of ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality, the lack of wisdom. That's why everything on the path to enlightenment is about cultivation of wisdom. You're not following. You're not a follower or a devotee. You're not believing your way to enlightenment. You need to cultivate wisdom. That's what's going to transform this and get rid of this ignorance or this unknowing of true reality. One of the things that the mind's ignorant of, or has a lack of wisdom or misunderstanding when you first come to the path to enlightenment, is we firmly believe that other people are causing us to be angry. We will firmly believe that. But then when we investigate what's something called the Four Noble Truths, that's where you actually are able to see true reality and be able to see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. So part of that unknowing of true reality, or that ignorance that the mind stays stuck, is that it thinks that other people are causing you to be angry or annoyed or frustrated, when in reality it's the mind itself doing this. But as long as this ignorance is in the mind, you're not going to be able to see that, or this unknowing of true reality, or this misunderstanding. So that's why you're not believing his teachings, but you're examining them and investigating them. You're reflecting on them to independently verify them, and then you're practicing them, integrating them into your day-to-day life, so that you can actually then experience the results of having trained your mind. So that's what he's describing here, is dependent origination, and pointing to that. And he's saying these are things that a stream enter would have done, is they would have understood and be practicing the 5 precepts. They would have confirmed confidence in the Buddha, the teachings, the community, and they would have a certain amount of improved moral conduct. And then they would understand dependent origination. So you can see he's starting to add more and more things of what an individual needs in order to get to the first stage of enlightenment. That it's not just one discourse where he explains everything you would need in order to get to the first stage of enlightenment. Now, we teach a retreat here every January that provides you all the teachings you need in order to get to the first stage of enlightenment. In one 6-day event, you're learning over the course of that retreat everything you need to get to the first stage of enlightenment. You wouldn't actually be in the first stage of enlightenment at the end of that retreat, but you'll have all the teachings that you need to be able to get to that first stage of enlightenment. So here, this is some more detailed for you about what it takes to be able to get to the first stage of enlightenment. Do you guys have any questions on this one? This is chapter 5, I think. Yeah, chapter 5. Eliminating the 5 dangers and hostels as a stream enter. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. Let's see what the next one is. Chapter 6. Okay, let's just end on this one. Is there someone who would like to read this one? You got it? Okay, go for it, Pat.
A stream enterer understands the 5 aggregates. When, monks, a noble disciple understands as they really are the cause and the disappearance, the gratification, the danger, and the escape in the case of these 5 aggregates subject to clinging. Monks, then he is called a noble disciple who is a stream enterer, no longer bound to the netherworld, fixed in destiny, with enlightenment as his destination.
Okay, thank you, sir. So this is another teaching that an individual would have in getting into the first stage of enlightenment. They would understand the 5 aggregates, or some people refer to them as the 5 collections, or the 5 elements. Another way to think of it is the 5 criteria. These are the 5 criteria that make a living being a living being. What the 5 aggregates are is physical form, feelings, perceptions, volitional formations, and consciousness. The Buddha doesn't describe them here, but he describes them in other places. Here, he's just essentially saying that a stream enterer, someone in the first stage of enlightenment, would understand these. And the reason why is because you need to understand them in order to apply the first precept. That what these 5 aggregates or 5 criteria do is it helps you to understand what is a living being. That a living being is going to have physical form, that they're going to have feelings, they're going to have perceptions, which are views and opinions about the world, they're going to have volitional formations, which are choices and decisions, and they're going to have a consciousness or a mind. And any time you cause harm to a living being, this harm is going to come back to you. That's why it's important for you to understand what a living being is. And you can independently reflect on this and independently verify it for yourself, because you know that you're a living being, and you can see that you have all 5 aggregates. You have physical form, you have feelings, You have perceptions, which are views and opinions about the world. You have volitional formations, which are choices and decisions. And you have a consciousness or a mind. And you can see a squirrel, a rabbit, a bird. They all have these 5 aggregates. And that's how you independently verify these things. But then you can take something like this chair that I'm sitting in, or this microphone, and you can go through the 5 aggregates. And you can say, does it have physical form? Yeah, it has physical form. Does it have feelings? No, it doesn't have feelings. Does it have perceptions? Does this microphone have views and opinions about the world? No, it doesn't. Does it have volitional formations? Does it make choices and decisions? No, it doesn't do that. And does it have a consciousness or a mind? No, it doesn't have that. So this definition that the Buddha gave 2,500 years ago has held up, that his teachings are timeless, that he's describing these natural laws in a way that can be applied all throughout time. So by understanding the 5 aggregates, not only do you understand which are living beings, which aren't living beings, because you're not interested in causing harm to any living beings, but also you have these 5 aggregates and you will actually cling to them in the unenlightened state. You will crave for them to be permanent. So if you cling to this physical form and you want it to be permanent, when you see a wrinkle or a mole or a pimple, that's impermanence, and now you'll be shaken up by that. When you look in the mirror and you see a pimple or a mole or a gray hair, you'll be shaken up by that. Or if you cling to your perceptions, this is your views and opinions about the world. Say you have certain political views or certain perspective of how the world should be run. If you cling to that, you'll find yourself holding on to it, and maybe you're in arguments with people, arguing about your views and opinions and trying to convince other people to agree with you. Or if you have certain feelings, I skipped feelings, I went straight to perceptions, but if you have certain feelings like anger or sadness or happiness or excitement, you might cling to those, wanting those to be permanent. Or your volitional formations, your choices and decisions, you might cling to these. Like if you really want to go to Thailand really badly and you get so excited about going to Thailand and you're clinging to this decision, when you show up to the airport and your flight's delayed or it's canceled, you'll be frustrated, you'll be annoyed because you're craving permanence. You're wanting this airplane to fly. And now every airplane isn't going to fly on time. It's just not possible. It's going to have a maintenance issue or a crew issue, weather issue, or some other problem, that these planes aren't going to always be on time. So if you cling to your decision of, I want to go to Thailand right now, when your plane is 3 hours delayed, you'll sit there and be frustrated because of it, because the mind's craving permanence, not understanding impermanence. And then there's the consciousness itself, where the mind can cling to an identity, like I am Chinese, or I am Brazilian, or I am American, or any of this other I am. If the mind clings to this identity in situations where people are polite and kind and friendly and respectful about people that are from the country that you're from, for example, you'll be very excited about that because they're talking about you. But then when people are degrading and disparaging about people from the country where you come from, you'll be angry and you'll be frustrated. And this is because you're clinging to a certain identity, like your nationality, your culture, your ethnicity, maybe your job or occupation or your sexual orientation. You might cling to this as an identity of who you think you are as a person. And as long as you hold on to that, when you hear agreeable things related to that, you'll get happy or excited. But when you hear disagreeable things, then you'll get angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. So the Buddha teaches you the 5 aggregates so that you can eliminate your clinging to them, but also so that you're not causing harm to others, so that harm doesn't come back to you. Because if you cause harm to a living being, this harm is going to come back to you. So a person who's in the first stage of enlightenment, they would know the 5 aggregates, and they would be practicing to eliminate any clinging to those 5 aggregates for themselves, and they would understand how to identify what a living being is through these 5 aggregates. So do you guys have any questions here on this particular teaching? Okay, don't see any questions anywhere. So what I'll do though is just in class here, sometimes we go through all 10 chapters, sometimes we just get 2 or 3 chapters. We just usually go up to about this time frame and then kind of in class. I teach the same class at home tonight at 9 p.m. and I do it from my home studio, and we don't usually do meditation in that particular class. So we have time to cover all 10 chapters. So if you're ever interested in studying all 10 chapters, it will be better to attend the evening class where you can attend through Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, and you'll be able to learn or watch the recording. But if you're just starting out, I encourage you to actually come for Sunday and Wednesday classes, either here or online, because that's where the real foundational classes are being taught. And tomorrow we're going to be in chapter 3 of this first book. Chapter 3 is titled Enlightenment. What is enlightenment? And I'm going to be teaching you about this enlightened mental state, all the ins and outs of what it is, so that then you'll understand it more and you'll be able to more easily navigate your way to it. So at the very beginning of this first book of the book series, chapter 3, I make it very clear of what enlightenment is and what enlightenment isn't, so that way you can more easily navigate your way to it. If you didn't know what enlightenment was, you wouldn't really be able to navigate your way to it. So that's why tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., I'm going to be teaching in a more traditional method where I'll be teaching for 15, 20, 30 minutes and then opening up to questions. And then I'll teach another 15, 20, 30 minutes and then open up to questions so that you guys can understand what this enlightened mental state is. So if you'd like to attend any of these future classes, courses, or retreats, you can find those details on our bulletin board over there, or you can find them on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com, and you'll have access to all the books and resources, even personal guidance. If you would like to learn and grow and develop on this path, there's help for you here, and it's all available to you at no cost. So you're welcome to look at our website or even come talk to me, send me a private message, and I'll be able to help you to get plugged into the resources that you need in order to be able to learn and grow and develop on the path. So whatever you choose to do today, have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day, and perhaps we'll see you guys in a future class. Be well and take care. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.